I just want to really express my appreciation of the Minnesota Lyme Association for opening a platform for moving forward in this field that is desperately needing someone to open up their mind and heart to different ways of healing. And so this is a nice way that we can do that. I also want to say thank you to Anna, who's like letting us use her Zoom site and helping us technically, because I'm a technical. Today we're going to be talking about a special new science called human detox therapy that is based on homeopathic principles. And I first became aware of homeopathic principles when I fell and sprained my ankle, and I was walking 1.5 miles to school every day, and somebody gave me some arnica, and the next day I didn't have any pain. I thought, well, that's pretty amazing. And Bill Manahan brought homeopaths to talk to the Holistic Medical Student Association. And just before residency, I went to Mexico with 3 people and caught some sort of parasite, and I lost 35 pounds in 3 months and was exhausted. I was what they call chronic fatigue syndrome. I had no idea how I was going to do my residency. And so I contacted this homeopath, and he gave me 1 dose of a homeopathic remedy. I took it, went to bed, and then got up and worked 120 hours a week for 3 years. I was like, okay, well, that's interesting. So that got my curiosity going. There was a time that my niece got into poison ivy while she went out on a camping trip to go to the bathroom, and came back with poison ivy all over herself. She got put on steroids, nothing helped. We put her on rust tox, and she was better in 15 minutes, and the rash was gone in, I don't know, an hour or 2. I gave my siblings homeopathic kits when we were in college, and the next year they said, we don't need all that other stuff, just give me the Nux Vomica, because they were drinking at the time, and Nux Vomica undid their hangovers. So even non-believers that worked for. And I don't tolerate any prescription drugs as for pain. So I've had major surgery, left hemicolectomy, and all I took was homeopathic arnica for pain. And my surgeon couldn't believe the pain control and how fast I recovered. So I have a long history of homeopathy. I think of it first and last, although I'm not a trained homeopath. I was at a class about gemotherapy, and Isabel was there, and she said, well, there's this thing called human detox therapy. And I said, what's that? And that's what got me started. So I got the 2 books, Fighting Fire with Fire and Human Chemistry Integrated, and I signed up for Tone Johnson's course, and I haven't completed it, but it's fascinating. And so I was thrilled when I asked Isabel, and she agreed to come and introduce us to the topic, because it helps to undo toxicity. I'm been on it since May, I think. I was in the mountains and I developed urinary frequency and blood in my urine, fevers, chills, and sweats, and left flank pain, which is a kidney infection until proven otherwise. And my medical thinking went down to Buffalo to get some antibiotics, but God bless her, she answered my text and said, did you just take a homeopathic last night? I said, yeah. She said, take 3 of those pellets and put them in 6 ounces of water, mix them up with a metal spoon, and take a teaspoon every so often. And by the time I took the 3rd dose, all my symptoms were gone. The fever, chills, sweats, the blood in the urine, the flank pain, and the urinary frequency all resolved. And so then I said, I guess I don't know what I know. Like, I could have sworn that was a bacteria that needed antibiotics, and it didn't. And I said, you got my attention now. So Isabel, why don't you tell us what you know?
Karen, thank you. It was great. I love to follow that sequence. And thank you, Britt, and thank you, Anna, for that lovely meditation. And thank you to the Minnesota Lyme Association as well. So I am going to go to share screen so I can get my, let's see, PowerPoint up here. Okay. Let's see.
Anna, is Isabel a host? I think you have to make her a host to share screen.
Oh, okay.
She's a co-host. She should be able
I
to.
should be able to,
um,
right? Okay.
You're a co-host as well, Karen.
Okay, thank you.
Power.
There we go.
Go and let me just, okay, here we go. Talking about a person who has no tech ability. Okay, let me get the
Slideshow.
started. Great. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to do a little quick personal story as well. What brought me here today?
So, Isabel,
is,
can you hit slideshow? Do you want to do that?
I just did.
Okay, because
Is
it's
it not
not,
coming
it's
up?
not in that, it's not in that view on my screen.
Okay, let's see. Let me try again. Play from the start. Is it not now?
I
Not
just
yet.
see your whole desktop and not just this.
Really? Okay. That's weird.
Anna, are you seeing the same?
I am seeing the same. It looks like that's just a preview of, if you can click on the HC present and see what comes up there.
Okay, that's what I just did. Let me go back to my
Like
desktop.
double click on it?
Double click on it. Let's see. How about now? That's
Can you
weird.
click on the more button? Is that available to you?
On the bottom of the screen?
Okay. Let me see.
Like in the center under the slides. There's a little button that says more.
Just after information.
Okay. Well, that's weird because it's on my screen, it's everything is showing up. That's very weird.
Like it's just the slides, not, doesn't have the
So
thing on the
nothing here
left.
either?
So are you in the screen share right now?
I am in the screen share, but let me go back and do that again. Okay.
And it's in PowerPoint, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
If you
Oh, that's so
if you
weird.
pulled up PowerPoint, that'll come up.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna go back here again one more time. It says you are screen sharing. And I am clicking on the PowerPoint. It's funny because on my screen, it's showing up.
So can you go to the PowerPoint app?
Yeah,
Under
I'm on the
Microsoft?
PowerPoint night right now. Oh, I don't understand this. Why is it doing this?
Maybe close it and start over and see.
Okay, let me try that. Let me quit the PowerPoint right now and then I'll see if I
There
can
you
get
go.
this. I'll do it one more time.
I'm trying to click on it for you. I'm sorry, it's not working.
It's okay. Okay, so
What if you right click on the thing you just clicked on? See if the right click will lead you a slideshow choice.
Okay. Okay, well, it says screen sharing, and what about this? Are you getting anything now?
I see desktop documents, pictures, downloads, AirDrop, movies.
So you're screen sharing just one window. Do you have other windows to choose from when you, and it says screen share, I'll show you all the screens open on your computer. Is PowerPoint open on one of those screens that you could click on that?
Okay. Damn, I don't understand this.
Because it looks like an Apple screen and you're using a Microsoft product. Are you on an Apple computer?
I'm on an Apple computer. Okay. I'm gonna. The computer's acting really weird. I'm gonna stop sharing for a minute, okay?
Okay,
And do this again.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna go back and share screen again.
okay.
Okay. Okay, now I see. Okay, let's see.
There you go.
Okay, great. Beautiful. I don't know what I did,
Oh,
with
yeah.
the front, but something is working here.
It's just, the universe just opened up for you.
That's right.
There you go. Thank you for your patience there and all your help. So my story quickly is I was a baby from the 50s. So at that time, it wasn't stylish to be breastfed. So that kind of set, I think that set the immune system a little bit at a disadvantage. And I was kind of a sickly kid, developed a lot of infections, upper respiratory. And at the age of 5, landed in the hospital from rheumatic fever from a strep infection that got out of hand, and was put on steroids and antibiotics for 13 years, which now I have since learned, and we'll get to the slide on balancing the gut flora, how that is pretty bad for your microbiome. So it ended up being, I was pretty healthy after that. I had some migraines along the way, you know, got through college and everything, got married and had kids and worked really hard. And then about 20 years ago, I just kind of fell flat on my face, literally, with Epstein-Barr virus and chronic fatigue, right, that goes along with that. And at the time, I was seeing a primary care physician. And I just want to go back in time a little bit. When I was 19 and I had horrific migraines, my mom took me to see our family physician, who was an amazing physician. He used to make home visits. And he said to me, I was 19 at the time, he said, I don't want to put you on duty medication because you're too young for that. And I've never forgotten that, many decades ago that he said that to me, never forgot that. So fast forward to the chronic fatigue, I went to my primary care physician and she said to me, we have no treatment for you. Go back to that energy healer that you told me about, because he was the one that actually diagnosed it before I went to the physician. And I said, great, okay. So I worked with him, got me back on my feet, did a lot of supplements, worked a lot with energy healers, a lot of Reiki, a lot of sound healing, of course, working with nutrition, and came back to life, went back to work. And fast forward to now, I went recently to get some blood work done a couple of months ago, and the nurse practitioner, and this is the third person that's said this to me in my lifetime, said exactly the same thing that the doctor said 20 years ago when I asked about new treatments for Epstein-Barr. She'd go back to your energy healer. So, you know, when I think about it, there's a pattern there. There's a pattern in these really, I think, very gifted and ahead of their time physicians, knowing that there are other systems that are working here. And so encourage me to do that. So in 2011, I decided to become a homeopath, and fast forward, here I am now doing homeopathy and human chemistry since about 2020, because human chemistry is relatively new. So here we are. That's how I came to this. And I love this quote. This is a quote that I have also when I sign my email. Johann Lux was a veterinarian around the same time as Samuel Hahnemann, who was the founder of homeopathy in the 1800s. And what he did was he was a veterinarian. He was a surgeon. And he got very interested in homeopathy as well and used homeopathy in his veterinarian practice. So that quote really says a lot. All the diseases carry in their substance, even the means of their cure. So he was putting that into action in his veterinarian practice. And we still use a lot of these ideas today, which we're going to go through when we talk about Lyme.
And that makes sense, Isabel, from a
Mhm.
medical point of view, as smallpox, vaccines came from the cowpox that were very similar, that help people become immune to smallpox. So
That's a good
yeah,
point.
I think that it's a like for like, even within the allopathic medical community.
Yes, yes, thank you. And that's exactly, it's not a new idea. And we're going to see too that the homeopathic medicine made from the Borrelia is also doing exactly the same thing, right? What causes the disease in the homeopathic form or another form can also be a cure or a healing substance. Okay. So let me go forward here. Okay, why is this not? Oh, no.
You should be able to arrow forward or swipe.
Yeah, it's not. Oh, my goodness. Phew. Why is it not doing that? Okay, something is going on here. Okay. Down arrow not working, right arrow not working. All right.
Do you have a touch screen?
No, this is all by,
All right, there it did.
this is, okay, I'm gonna do it this way. This is just another, another way to do it. Okay, so just I want to talk a little bit about homeopathy in general before we talk about human chemistry homeopathy. So homeopathy has been around more than 200 years. Dr. Hahnemann in the mid 1700s to 1800s was a physician, and he was not too happy with the way medicine was practiced at that time. So he ended up digging into experimenting on himself, literally, with a lot of substances in the herbal form or in the material form could actually make a lot of awful symptoms. But he came up with this idea to continuously dilute these substances to the point where you're not even finding the molecules anymore. So there you go. And it's been around for over 200 years, and it is holistic. It's a holistic therapy. We look at the whole person. We look at the spiritual, the physical, the mental, the emotional. It's all part of you as a whole person. And we talked a little bit about the concept of like cures like. So just a quick example of that. The red onion, right? If you're cutting up a red onion, it's very strong and it's going to cause all these symptoms, particularly in your eyes, maybe in your nose might run, your eyes might get really teary. And so that same substance as a homeopathic remedy could be given to a person who has those types of allergy symptoms. So that's the idea of like cures like. Right now we have, I would say, over 4,000 remedies available to us, and new ones are being created all the time. So it's not a science that ever stops. It keeps evolving.
And
Okay.
Isabel, isn't homeopathy used much more mainstream in Europe and India?
Yes, that's a good point. So in India, for example, many physicians, like as you are also trained as homeopaths. There are specialists, right? They specialize in oncology, they specialize in endocrinology. So yes, in India, it's considered a medicine. They go to what they call homeopathic medical school. Brazil as well. But in some countries, especially in South America, you can't actually practice homeopathy unless you are a physician. It's different in this country.
And the royalty in England uses homeopaths primarily for their treatments, right?
Exactly. Yeah, Peter Fisher, he was the famous homeopath of the Queen who unfortunately died in a tragic bicycle accident. But he was very outspoken in terms of using more homeopathy and he was actually trained as I believe he was a specialized in rheumatology. So he was way ahead of his time and definitely died way too young. Yeah.
Mhm. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's see if I can make this button go here, Karen. I'm gonna have to do it this
There
way.
it is at the bottom of your screen. There's a little arrow. See the
Yeah.
little arrow on the left-hand bottom? When you touch the left-hand bottom of your screen, it shows up.
Oh, that's something else. I'm gonna do it manually by just doing it this way.
Okay.
The other way is just for some reason, I don't know why it's not working. So. Wait a minute, okay. Oh, now it is working. Okay, thank you. Hopefully I can do homeopathy better than I can manage my computer.
Don't worry about it.
That's great. So, yeah, so a little bit about, if there are any questions about homeopathy in general, I just want to point out there is that PDF file that Karen sent out to you, and it's also at the end of this PowerPoint as well. And there is great information there about just beginning, understanding of homeopathy. There are some great books, there are some websites. There's some great classes that some people are doing just for beginners. So if you're interested in that, definitely you can check that. You can check that document. So let's go to, wait a minute. This is
I'm going to say that the e-blast that came out on Wednesday to this group, look way at the bottom, and there's PDFs of Isabel's references and these slides that you can download to your computer.
And it's not actually an attachment. If you scroll all the way down to the e-blast from Wednesday, it's a link that brings you to the attachments.
And you
Right.
can download it.
Yep.
Exactly. Thank you. So let's talk a little bit about, and one of the things I did want to mention from the beginning that I forgot, I'm a former math teacher and I always had very interactive classrooms. So I love I don't call them interruptions. I love the interaction when people just kind of jump in. So questions, comments, whatever, it just makes me come more alive. So I do welcome that. So I wanted to talk now about the detox therapy in Tangensen. I first learned about that when my homeopath introduced the idea to me, I would say about 7 years ago. She said, I think we need to detox this antibiotics that you had. I said, you think? I've only had it for 13 years. So we ended up doing a lot of these types of protocols. And then I got so interested in it because I was learning homeopathy at the time. I ended up enrolling in some of the classes, buying the books, and here I am, many years later, and using these remedies for myself as well and prescribing them to my clients. So in a nutshell, what is human chemistry homeopathy? And by the way, the name has changed a couple of times. First, it was detox therapy, then it was balancing therapy, then it was detox and balancing, and then it was human chemistry. So I just like to say human chemistry homeopathy. So the idea is that the external world has an impact on us, right? And so how could it not have an impact on us? It affects us in every way. It affects how we think, it affects how we feel, it affects what goes on in our bodies. And so what's in our bodies? Our body systems, right? And so the hormones, the neurotransmitters, all the chemicals, all the minerals, everything is affected by what's going on in the outside world. And sometimes they're not such great things that are affecting us. There could be toxins coming in from all kinds of sources. There could be medicines that we take, surgeries that we undergo. We could be, for example, spraying Roundup on our grass, and glyphosate is getting into our system, which impacts us, right? It interacts with the hormones, and anything that interacts with one hormone or one neurotransmitter, it has a domino effect. It will affect everything, cascade all the way down. So it's it can be a perfect storm in some situations. And of course, we're impacted by bacteria and viruses, as we all know on this call.
And Isabel, I just want to inject, there's a great book
Sure.
called The Body Keeps Score that talks about how we store these traumas, whether they're hormones or infections or antibiotics, on our cell membranes until something happens to clear them. So it makes total sense that they have to be addressed.
Yeah, good point, Karen. That's excellent. And I also wanted to focus particularly with Lyme disease on the immune system and how the immune system is so affected in not just catching, let's say, a virus or bacteria. The immune system is affected when anything is out of balance. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you have a tick bite, okay, and it progresses to Lyme disease, and so the immune system is impacted by that, right? The immune system is trying to protect you, and sometimes when you have an infection like Lyme, the immune system goes through the body and it's trying to expel. And so the immune system is on overdrive at that point. And that overdrive condition of the immune system can also exacerbate any other chronic condition that you have. And another aspect of the immune system being on overdrive is that you can get allergic reactions when you don't really need to have an allergic reaction. And so there's all this disbalance that's affected. And when the immune system is out of balance, everything else is going to be affected. And in particular, I wanted to talk a little bit about the neurotransmitters. So let's say, for example, one of the neurotransmitters that might be affected is GABA, right? Let's say you're undergoing a lot of stress, you have difficulty sleeping, and so when you have difficulty sleeping, GABA we say GABA is too low, right? So GABA is that Buddha neurotransmitter that brings peace and brings relaxation to us. And when that is too low, then, and that could be caused by medications, it could be caused by the tick bite, the Lyme disease, it could be caused by processed foods, it could be caused by lack of exercise. Low GABA can be also caused by a very high carb diet. So that neurotransmitter being out of balance then affects dopamine being out of balance. So there's just a very simple example of two neurotransmitters that work very closely together, GABA and dopamine. So that, again, back to what I said before, when one thing is out of balance, it's that cascade effect. And so human chemistry addresses that. It addresses how the external world works on us, how that affects our hormones, how that affects our neurotransmitters. So in human chemistry, we try to, the attempt is to detox those toxins from the body using these homeopathic remedies. We detox and we balance. So that same GABA dopamine example I gave before being out of balance, we can then balance that homeopathically. So we have the homeopathic remedies made from the viruses, made from the bacteria, made from the allopathic medications, made from glyphosate, right? Glyphosate, sorry, from the Roundup, let's say, exposure. We also have homeopathic remedies in the human chemistry arena that are created from hormones. So we have, for example, cortisol in homeopathic form, or even estrogen. We have neurotransmitters as well. We have GABA, we have dopamine, we have serotonin, we have lots of them. And so we balance and we detox. Any questions so far or comments? What do you want to? Just make sure I'm not rushing through this too fast.
No, I think that's pretty clear.
I've created a tone so that if anybody raises their hand, we'll hear that.
Oh, I love that. That's a beautiful idea. Thanks, Anna. Great, okay. And so part of human chemistry is also understanding the pathology and the mental disturbances and the trauma history. We don't all take this in the same way. We're all so different. So again, going back to homeopathy, we look at the whole person. You can't have two people with Lyme disease that are going to be treated the same way. Not in
So
homeopathy.
Isabel, I understand how you could make a homeopathic from a hormone or a bacteria, but how do you make a homeopathic from a trauma?
Ah, yeah, well, we would consider that's a good question, Karen. I love that question. So we would consider the trauma in the intake. That would be part of how we choose a particular remedy, as we call the weekly remedy. And I'm going to go through an example of that a little later, but I wanted to answer your question. So let's say a person comes to us with Lyme disease, okay? And they've had a very recent history of lots of rounds of antibiotics. So we would detox the antibiotics. We would add in some other remedies to support that process that I will talk about. We also give what we call the weekly remedy or the constitutional remedy. And that goes back to the classical homeopathy from Hahnemann's time, where we find a remedy that fits that person emotionally, mentally, and physically. So I'll give you an example, because you talked a little bit about arnica before. So arnica doesn't only treat the soft tissues for injury. Arnica, the personality of the arnica person is that they don't want to be touched. Okay, they want to just be left alone. They want to create their boundary there. So there is, with each of these remedies, also a picture or a personality type as well. Okay, and that's how the trauma history would be looked at. So we have, for example,
Thank you. That helps a lot.
sure, thank you. Thanks for that question. We have certain categories of remedies that are good for certain types of situations. So for a lot of trauma PTSD, we can look at remedies created from the gemstones, the family of the gemstone remedies, because think about gemstones, they're created deep into the earth, and a lot of trauma is right there, deep in there. But we have so many other possibilities as well. We have plant families, and we're going to talk about that too. Okay, so here we go. Leaky gut. Beginning to think that's the source of many things right now. So we can't think about human chemistry, homeopathy without thinking about leaky gut, because it's a big piece of it. And it's a big piece of many chronic diseases, including Lyme. So we have to take that into consideration, whether we're detoxing, whether we're balancing, whatever we're doing in our homeopathic prescription, we need to look at the gut, because so many of us have these difficulties. And remember, when I was talking about myself, 13 years of antibiotics, I had a really messed up gut. So that needed to be addressed. And leaky gut is just one part of the picture. There's leaky gut, there's leaky tissue, there's leaky lung, there's leaky skin, but it does start in the gut. And so what is leaky gut? Leaky gut is when the intestinal membranes are way too permeable. We need some permeability there, right, for the nutrients to get in, but we don't want it to be an just open space completely. So a lot of these substances, they're getting into the blood, they shouldn't be there. And it can happen from antibiotics, poor diet, additives, stress, too much cortisol, adrenaline can also create leaky gut. Anything that disturbs the gut flora. And so what happens when the gut is leaking, these toxins are going through the gut lining, going into the blood where they don't belong, and that creates joint problems, allergies, you name it, a lot of other things as well. Okay. And I wanted to just mention about histamine too, because there are some things that are created in the gut that we don't think about as being created in the gut. For example, serotonin. Before I talk about histamine, serotonin we think about as residing in the brain. Actually, 90% of the neurotransmitter serotonin is created in the gut. So we talk about the brain-gut connection, and to have a healthy brain, we need to have a healthy gut. They go hand in hand. And the same with histamine, although histamine is found all throughout the body, and it's in human chemistry, we categorize it as a neurotransmitter. Although we do find a lot of histamine in the GI tract, and we find it also in the lungs, right? Because we talk about with allergies, we get this response to pollen coming from the lungs, and it resides in the brain as well. Histamine is related to sleep, and it's also in the gut. So when we have problems with our gut, we have problems with allergies, we have problems with histamine. We may have an allergic reaction to a certain food that we eat. In homeopathy, human chemistry homeopathy, if a person comes in with whatever kind of allergy, we're going to look to the gut and the immune system. So that being said, how do we balance the gut? Lots of ways. We got lots of tools in our toolkit here. So our big homeopathic remedy, Polybal Plus, which most people get a dose of Polybal Plus now. It's one of the most beautiful remedies, I think. And it has an amazing history, because in the 1920s, these types of remedies were created by, you might remember the Bach flowers. Well, Dr. Bach was actually one of the founders of what we call the bowel nosode remedies. So these are remedies that are created from diseased tissue in the bowels to balance the gut flora. Well, Tom Jansen, being as brilliant as he is, took all these remedies, all these bowel remedies, and there are many of them, and he put them into one remedy called Polybal Plus. So it has all these bowel remedies, plus candida, plus digestive enzymes. So it's this wonderful package deal to get your gut back into action, okay?
And Isabel, what you're talking about is really complex and would be best overseen by a human chemistry instructor, right? But is this one that people could just ask their homeopath to start them on? Or is it only available?
Absolutely. Yes, that's a perfect question, Karen. Yes, because not everybody needs to start with a very complex prescription. You could start as simple as taking Polybal Plus twice a week for 8 weeks, just to see some action, some change, some steps in the right direction with getting our gut flora back, right? And that could be as simple as better elimination, right? Less, let's say, pain or whatever symptom the person is showing. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it was huge that I thought I had SIBO, small intestinal bowel overgrowth, and that completely healed it up.
Whoa, yeah, because we started very simple with you. Yes, yes.
Right.
Yeah, it's a perfect example. Thank you. And of course, going along with that, dietary changes are really important, right? Because obviously, if we're going to keep recreating the problem, or we would say in homeopathy, obstacle to cure, if we keep recreating the problem, then it's going to be much more difficult to resolve. So yeah, and we can also balance the gut, help balance the gut flora with remedies made from antibiotics. We have a remedy made from penicillin, and we also have what we call polyantibiotics, which has at least 12 different types of antibiotics in it. And, you know, taking supplements like zinc, selenium, right? Zinc is taking the toxins, And selenium is expelling them from the body. So those are good to pair. Psyllium husk, which is a prebiotic, is also good. And of course, the gemmos. Can't not talk about the gemmos. So in particular, walnut, lingonberry, blueberry are good to help balance the gut flora and support the elimination as well.
And someone should ask what dose a walnut, lingonberry, and blueberry, if they were just going to take, because they could take these on their own. They're safe enough, right?
Yes. Well, lingonberry is the one we put a little, if you have an estrogen-driven cancer, we wouldn't go crazy with lingonberry. We'd be a little bit conservative with it.
But
Yeah.
walnut would be taken alone, like 1 or 2 drops at a neurologic dose.
I would use walnut if you were working on the nervous system, yes, 1 or 2 drops. But if I were putting it as a full-fledged elimination gemmo, I would do a full dose, and full dose, we'd start with about 5 drops.
Once a day by itself, not at the same time as the other 2?
Exactly. And walnut is a beautiful gemmo for any type of diabetic condition. So it supports the pancreas as well.
And it also supports thyroid health.
Yes.
And it's really good for people that tend to isolate when
Yes.
they're under stress.
That's a good point, Karen, because that's the walnut tree, right? Likes to grow by itself, doesn't want any other trees around. Yeah, and it's a good travel gemmo to have on the plane because it'll protect you from radiation. And it will, sometimes when people travel, they tend to not have great digestion. So it'll support the digestion as well.
And the blueberry will help increase the microcirculation that is so impaired by Borrelia and Bartonella.
Yes, good point. Yes, it does target the eyes, ears. Yeah.
But also
Yes.
kidneys.
Thank you. Even with the gemmos, we're learning new information all the time. It doesn't stop.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention too, Polybal Plus has been around for a little bit, but now we have some new ones that we can also add with the Polybal Plus. So we have a new remedy called polygastric enzymes, which is a combination of many gastric enzymes. And we have another one created from the Akkermansia bacteria, which is called Akkermansia remedy. And that can also be given homeopathically to support the gut. So it's not just the Polybal Plus.
How do you spell the last one, Isabel?
Akkermansia, it's AKKERMANSIA. It's considered to be a good bacteria that resides in our gut. And it's now being used for obesity and diabetes. So this has been a very recent bit of information just coming from Tom Jensen about, I don't know, even just a few months ago, he started talking about Akkermansia. And it is available at our dispensary, which is nice.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, sure. It's exciting. So I wanted to give you just a sample of what a simple course could be. And let's say this course is to clear the guts and to balance the gut and to clear the antibiotics. And so just
is it okay if people take a screenshot of this? Because this is not in the
Absolutely.
slides.
Absolutely. Yes, that's a good point, Karen. Thank you. I had a brainstorm to add that on today. So yeah. So this course, yes, is to clear the antibiotics and to balance the gut flora. So I would put at the top of the prescription, you take 1 dose of the indicated remedy on the indicated day, and 1 dose is 3 to 4 pellets dissolved under the tongue, and they are energy sensitive medicines. So you want to leave 10 to 15 minutes before and after any food. So this would be an 8-week course. So weeks 1 and 2, Monday, Thursday, you would take the penicillin remedy because we're clearing the penicillin. And then Tuesday, Friday, you would take the Polybal Plus for weeks 1 and 2. And you'll notice it starts with 30C. These are codes for potency, homeopathic potency. So 30C, then it goes up to 200C, then it goes up to 1M, and then it goes up to 10M. So by the end of the 8 weeks, you have gone in ascending potencies through these 2 homeopathic remedies.
And ascending potencies mean more dilute.
Exactly, more dilute, right? And the more dilute is considered to us, to our way of thinking, that you're going deeper into the system. And with some people, that means deeper mentally and emotionally. And because of that gut-brain connection, many people that do these clears and these detox protocols end up getting affected mentally and emotionally. Sometimes better sleep, clearer thinking, much more living in the present. So it's not just your gut that's being healed, it's your whole body, it's your whole being. Okay. Any questions about that?
Yeah, I have a question. So while you're going through the clearing, if you have some built up trauma or mental, as you said, like you might have better mental clarity afterwards, but would those weeks of clearing it be more tumultuous for people or not necessarily?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Britt. So what I didn't put into this prescription, but what we could do is for that particular person, and again, that would come through taking that really detailed case history timeline. If a person comes really, really sensitive and very fragile, we could put in a weekly remedy. So that could be on a Saturday or a Sunday when you're not taking the other remedies that would address that. So it could be a trauma remedy, like one of those gemstones, or, well, let's say the person had a really difficult relationship with a father. So it could be a remedy made from one of the carbon sources, because carbon remedies tend to have difficult relationship with father. So we look really carefully, and that would be in the case analysis that I do. The homeopath would take a very careful case taking analysis to find that remedy to support that mental emotional side, to give extra support. For sure.
But also, Isabel, if they had a worsening or what we call in the Lyme community a herx off of some remedy, they could dilute it in a glass, mix it with a metal spoon, and take a teaspoon every how often?
Yeah, so normally in a case like that, Karen, I would say do it once and then see how that goes. And you could, again, that kind of falls into the person actually taking the remedy to gauge whether you need to take it again. So if you start to feel right away you're feeling better and it's relieved, you don't need to do anything else. You will just continue on. But if you find that it's not helping, you would do it every half hour for 2 or 3 doses. And up to now, I have not found anyone that has not been helped by doing that. So taking it in water, and Ton swears by that. And I can see now, because when I have clients do that, it works. Yeah.
Yeah, that has been my experience.
Exactly. You're a perfect example of that. And it's been a couple of times that you've done that, right?
3 different times.
3 different times. Yeah. Yeah, putting it in water, what happens when you put it in water, again, you're diluting it more, it's becoming gentler. So it's going deeper, but it's gentler. So as you're going up in that potency, in a way, you're getting higher, but you're getting gentler. You're working through the system in a way that's just not pushing as much.
And we use spring water or water that comes from the earth, not chlorinated, fluorinated, water and not distilled water, right?
Exactly, yeah, as much as possible.
And we don't put it in a plastic cup and just shake it up. We like to put it in glass.
Exactly. Thank you for that. Yeah. Glass is best. Britt, did that answer your question?
It did.
Good.
I actually have another question personally, and then there are 3 questions in the chat. A couple of them are about the Polybowel Plus. Is this an
Sure.
okay time?
Yep,
So
perfect.
I reacted very strongly when I was 3, and then again 20 years ago to penicillin, and then also through allergy testing. I don't even know if birch, I'm just giving an example, but like I'm really allergic to birch trees, according to allergy testing. So if I had a Western medicine allergy to penicillin or allergy testing to some tree, like I, was thinking of walnut, would that potentially affect me on a homeopathic level, or how does that work?
That's a good question. Yeah, no, because when you're creating the homeopathic remedy, you are diluting it so many times that you're not actually getting the molecule of the original substance. Well, and the potencies that we're talking about here. So starting, let's say, from a 12C, you're not getting any of the material substance. If you're taking a low potency, like a 6X or a 6C, then you would see that. So we wouldn't be giving that potency to that person that has that extra sensitivity. And we would have to go back to that timeline, and we'd have to look and see, when did this start? What led to this, and what's in that person's history. And when a person shows up with extreme sensitivity, we would walk very gently and slowly. I wouldn't start with a person like that with 10 remedies to do detoxing 10 different things. We could start as simple as, like Karen mentioned before, start as simple as just doing a Polybowel Plus twice a week, just to get some shift. It's all very individual. Yeah, for sure. Was there another question?
Well, should we go to the chat questions about the Polyball Plus?
Sure. Does that answer your question?
It does. Yep. Thank you.
Sure.
So one person said they looked up Polyball Plus while you were speaking, and it says that a prescription is needed. So we had talked about possibly doing this on our own with certain remedies, but would you need to establish with a homeopath to get that?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. So you're right, and that is in my resource paper about, you can, there are certain places you can get home remedy kits, you can get things like the arnica and the rust tox. Whole Foods used to sell those, but they don't anymore, but other smaller health food stores do sell the single remedies. But things like Polybowel Plus, no, you can't. We have a dispensary, and we have some pharmacies, there's one in the UK as well, that sell these remedies. But right now, what we do with the dispensary that I work with, you have to become a member. To become a member, you have to be working with a practitioner who is also registered. And we have special codes that we use to order these remedies, because they need to be taken, I think, under supervision for the most part. And also, if you're not sure how to dose these things and monitor them, I don't think it's a wise thing. So, yeah.
Okay. We have another question about, can you explain the dilution in water in more detail? How much water, how often to take? And then kind of a related question is, why do you mix with a metal spoon versus glass spoon or ceramic spoon?
Okay, so this, I believe, is when the person gets an exacerbation. So normally you wouldn't have to take it in water. If you're doing these courses, I just prescribe taking them in pellet form. It's when you have particular situation when you have a strong reaction to something that happens occasionally, that's when you would put it in water. But normally, if you're feeling okay with it, you wouldn't need to put it in water. So the reason that you don't use plastic is that plastic has a lot of additives that can interact with the remedy. So we try to stay away from plastic as much as we can. Does that mean it wouldn't work? I would think that it would be okay if you didn't have any choice, but I would prefer it to be glass. Okay. But that's not the same as how we prepare homeopathic remedies. That's a totally different process. I assume the question was about just when you have an activation.
Sure. Okay.
Okay. Okay. All right.
There's a few other-
Isabel, would you mind if I asked about cost?
Of course, go right ahead, Karen.
So, since most of us have spent so much money on trying to heal from this complex disease, that's a sensitive question. In general, when you get a first consult and follow-up consults, is there a range that people are charging that you're aware of?
Oh, that's such a good question. So yeah, it's all over the place. I know I've heard of a homeopathic physician, I don't even know where it was in the country, charging like $900, not with any insurance. And myself and my colleagues, everything in between. I try to keep my prices down as best I can, but I do have a sliding scale. When somebody just presented to me recently who's on disability, so I did offer a sliding scale. Also, I just learned recently, the person who owns the homeopathic dispensary, when it's needed, I can ask him to give a discount for the remedies, and he's discounted up to 50% of the cost. So let's say a person starting out working with me the very first time, okay? And normally I charge $200 just to get things going. So that person got a 25% discount, so he paid $150 to me. He got a 50% discount from the dispensary, so he got $100 worth of remedies for $50. So for him, it was $200 for 10 weeks worth of the assistance, the analysis, the case taking from me, and the remedies for him. So that was $200.
Yeah, that's very good. And then follow-ups might be 3 or 4 times in a year?
Yeah, so follow-ups pretty much are decided between the client and the homeopath. Normally, we suggest 6 to 8 weeks. And of course, the prices go down significantly after the first visit. And
Great, thank you. That helps.
yeah, sure. I don't like to turn anybody away. That's just not the way I like to work. So, but I'm in a different situation because I do have a pension from from teaching, so I can afford that, but not every homeopath can. So, yeah. Okay.
Britt, did you want to finish your questions?
Well, there's some other questions, but I think they're general enough that we could just go on. They're not about the polyball, so maybe we could do more questions at the end. Is that all right?
I'm going to do the next slide here. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about Lyme disease, because we are here for Lyme disease too, right? So in the human chemistry arena, we do see Epstein-Barr virus as a background to Lyme disease. And the reason that we say that is because with a lot of Lyme disease conditions, we see a high level of Epstein-Barr. So Ton Jensen even goes as far to say you can't have Lyme without Epstein-Barr. So when we treat Lyme disease, we also treat Epstein-Barr virus as well. And again, with those remedies created from the virus itself. And we also have remedies created from Bartonella, Babesia, if you have those co-infections. We rebalance the gut flora when we're working with Lyme, as we talked about before. We work with the immune system. That's really important. And we also make sure, again, that the person holistically is addressed, okay? That being said, we have remedies that will address the whole person and have an affinity to Lyme disease, and I'm going to talk about that in the next slide. I do want to say the remedy Aurum arsenicum, which is made from gold, arsenic gold, can be a very helpful remedy for Lyme disease. And the reason we say that is because not only the physical symptoms that the remedy Aurum arsenicum cover, but there is also that aspect of being very depressed and could even be slightly suicidal. Okay, Aurum, the gold remedy, has those mental characteristics. But again, person is unique. We have to look at the timeline. Really important. What I wanted to say before we go on to the next slide, and this is also in the book list, suggested books. There's a beautiful book written by a naturopathic physician. Her name is Angelica Lemke. She lives out in Oregon. She wrote a book. I highly recommend this book. There's a lot of information about Lyme disease. She wrote a book called Healing Complex Children with Homeopathy. And it's not just about pandas and pans and autism and ADHD. It's also about Lyme disease. She found in her very, very busy practice that there seems to be a connection between Lyme disease and autism. A lot of the autistic children that are presented to her also have a background of Lyme disease. A lot of the symptoms, the sensory processing condition, the leaky gut, the feeling of being overwhelmed, the liver, the kidney needing detox, a lot of mitochondrial issues, a lot of processing issues. She finds that similarity with autism and Lyme disease. She uses similar treatments. And what are those treatments? Detoxing, same as we do in human chemistry, boosting the immune system, improving nutrition, treating all the layers of the metals, the yeast, the parasites, the bacterial and the viral overload. So that book I highly recommend, and anybody can read it. It's not just for homeopaths, it's for lay people as well. It's an absolutely gorgeous book and tons of good information. And the other thing that she mentions about Lyme disease, not just associated with autism, Angelica Lemke also compares Lyme disease with symptoms of parasites, because Lyme disease can act like a parasitic infection, right? And mold toxicity. So a lot of those similar symptoms, the neurological symptoms and the joint muscle pains. So it is helpful to compare those types of scenarios in terms of the treatment as well. Okay. So again, there are lots of remedies to address this, but I wanted to just briefly talk about this beautiful plant family called the Ericaceae, the heath family. And that family, that plant family, the remedies in that family, the plants in that family tend to address a lot of rheumatic pain issues. So there are 3 that I'd like to mention today that can be used as weekly remedies for Lyme disease. So the Kalmia latifolia, which is the mountain laurel, chronic pain, chronic Lyme pain that travels from joint to joint, shooting neuralgic pains, which can also come from herpes zoster. So there's the connection, Epstein-Barr, herpes, and Lyme. Weakness, feeling, tingling, a cold sensation in the limbs, and the joints are swollen, hot, and red. And what's also particular about Kalmia is it's worse from motion, worse from cold, better with heat. Okay. And just an example of how Don Jensen used this remedy. When a person presented to him, a 37-year-old presented to him with Lyme disease, and that person had a history of mono when she was 12 years old. So there you go, the backdrop there of Epstein-Barr. And she had had a tick bite at the age of 34, so 3 years previous to when she consulted with Don Jensen, and was given a round of antibiotics. So what he did in his prescription, he gave her the Borrelia remedy. He gave her a mono remedy, even though it was many years previously. He cleared the antibiotics, and he gave her the Aurum arsenicum as her weekly remedy. She had some improvement. This was after 8 weeks. After that, he gave her Calmia, this remedy we just talked about, weekly for 6 months. After that, joint pain was resolved. Okay. So another remedy in this family, this plant family, the Heath family, is ledum. And you might have heard about ledum before. Ledum is a beautiful remedy. It's the wild rosemary plant that is used for puncture wounds. It's kind of the go-to for a puncture wound. And when you get a tick bite, it can actually be given prophylactically. You can take doses of ledum right after the tick bite to prevent Lyme. And it can also be used as a Lyme remedy. A lot of painfulness in the joints, neurological disorders, swollen, cold. And the difference you see with Calmia was better with heat. With ledum, it's better with cold. And that's how we can differentiate these two remedies. And another interesting thing about ledum that I just discovered recently, the plant grows on the edge of marshes, and the scent, which is supposed to be a very beautiful scent of the leaves, drives mosquitoes away, which I thought was kind of an interesting point. And another plant in the same plant family that addresses rheumatic pain is the rhododendron. Okay, and rhododendron is also a good remedy for fibromyalgia pain, connective tissue pain. But what's very characteristic of a rhododendron person would be extreme sensitivity to storms, to wind, the cold, the rain, very nervous before storms, and wandering rheumatic pains. So these are 3 possible remedies that could be used with Lyme disease. So again, going back to the beginning, I really support a combination, and many of you are already doing that, and you know that so well, that it takes a village, right? It takes a village to get through this. So bring it on, the herbs, the gemmos, the dietary changes, whatever exercise agrees with you, homeopathy, Reiki, energy healing. That's what brought my chronic fatigue back to a much more, how can I say, a livable place. Pharmaceuticals when you need them, right? Counseling, support groups like this. And everything else. I encourage your feedback, your questions, and these are the handouts that you will get. So I will take questions at this point. Comments?
I just wanted to thank you for this information. Really helpful. So thanks.
Sure, my pleasure. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. Would you like me to go through chat box, or how do you want?
Can we go back to the gallery view somehow?
Let's
Take
see.
it off.
Do I do that?
Yes. Quit
Oh.
under the same arrow that you said, share content, you can say quit sharing.
Oh, okay, that's what I do want to do, yeah. Okay, let's see. Okay. I'm gonna do stop video. No, not stop video. What did you say? Stop sharing?
Stop
Okay,
sharing.
okay, why am I not seeing that?
So there, it was green and now it's red when you touch it. Should be at the top or the bottom of your screen.
Oh, yes, thank you, Karen. Okay, so I click on stop share. Beautiful, thank you.
I was wondering how would you know if a homeopath is legit?
Ah, good question. Yeah. So we have a certifying board. And our certifying board issues the certifications. When a person has graduated from their homeopathic training, you have to have X number of hours. It's hundreds and hundreds of hours. And you have to have clinical hours also clocked in. And you have to have taken 3 years of science classes, a year of anatomy and physiology, 2 years of pathophysiology. After that, you sit for the exam, you pass the exam. If you pass the exam and you have all of the clinical hours, you are issued the certification. It usually takes 5 to 6 years from the beginning of training to get that. Okay, you get that. And then every year you have to put in X number of hours. We call them CEUs. To get recertified. Every year you need to get recertified to show that you're keeping up and, you know, being continuously trained. And then you get that CCH after your name.
So Isabel, it's a national or an international organization that does that?
It's national, yeah. Different countries have different ways of certifying. But if you have CCH, it means you're certified as a classical homeopath.
CCH.
And in the link that you gave us, there's people that you can personally recommend that have experience with treating people with complex Lyme disease.
Absolutely. Yeah, everybody on that list, they're all, yes, absolutely. Yeah. No, that's something that we're very careful about because it takes a lot of training and it takes a lot of skill to work with these types of cases. It's not just throwing out one remedy, you know,
there's homeopaths, and then there's homeopaths that do human detox. That this is a subgroup of the whole group of homeopaths.
That's right. That's a really good point. Exactly. Because the human chemistry community right now, we are growing, very, you know, we're growing pretty well, but we don't have a credential for that. We don't have a certification for that. You know, CCH means you're certified like I am, but human chemistry is a whole other level of training.
Thank you.
Sure.
Got a question I'd like to throw out there if I could. Do you see a lot of problems using homeopathic remedies at the same time you're maybe also doing allopathic? Are there interactions if you're trying to clear for something and you're also working out allopathically? Is that going to cause issues?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, Kurt. So it really depends on the type of medication that you're taking, because, so for example, if a person's undergoing chemotherapy, on the day they're doing the chemotherapy, we wouldn't do anything. We want the chemo to do what it's doing. But we could take a homeopathic remedy before that, the day before that, after that. If a person is experiencing, let's say, nausea, we could do some homeopathic support for that. And in general, because we're taking these higher potencies of the remedies that are in an energetic form, it's not going to interfere with the allopathic medication.
Except for perhaps prednisone or hydrocortisone.
Say more
Right.
about that, Karen?
Prednisone or hydrocortisone. My homeopath, Kim Lane, who's also my classmate in medical school, she said that those would block homeopathy from working.
Ah, okay, you mean the other way around. Yes, and that is true. And sometimes, yeah, if you're taking an allopathic medicine, especially if you're taking it the same time of day, it could just block it. It wouldn't work. But we could then, in a case like that, we could have the person do a lower potency in a daily dose, as opposed to taking a weekly dose of something. So we could, depending on, how the person is dosing their allopathic medicine, we could work with that. So, and I'll give you another example. Let's say a person is taking an antidepressant and they want to get off of the antidepressant, right? And of course, we would always say you got to work with your doctor, but we could do the homeopathic of the antidepressant while the person is weaning off of the antidepressant to help them adjust to that and shift to that better. Okay.
Great. And some homeopaths say that you cannot drink coffee and take homeopathics and have them work. And other homeopaths don't seem to believe that. Is there any idea within the human detox or human chemistry community whether drinking coffee might block the effectiveness of homeopathy?
Yeah, I've totally let go of that. In fact, Tom Jensen talks about how great it is to have a cup of coffee before 10 a.m. in the morning. So, and I just find it not, I don't think it's impacting at all. But like everything else, I wouldn't take a homeopathic remedy and drink a cup of coffee right at that same second. I would 15 minutes. Yeah, but it's fine.
Great, thanks.
There's a
Brenda,
question about,
go ahead.
there's a question about, are there any homeopathic remedies specific for Epstein-Barr?
Well, we would look at the timeline of the person and we'd have to see what else is going on. We have Epstein-Barr virus in a remedy form, but we wouldn't just give that by itself. We would give it with a remedy to support the immune system. So that would be a remedy made for the immunoglobulins. We would give it with a remedy that is made from the bone marrow to support the blood cells. Okay, we would give it also with a polybal. We would give it with a constitutional. So Epstein-Barr virus in the context of all these other support remedies that would be needed. So, yeah.
And there's another question in the chat that kind of relates to that. What if a person doesn't know what antibiotics or toxins they have been exposed to? How do you form a detox treatment plan without knowing for sure?
Yeah. So I know with steroids, right, there are a lot less steroids, and usually it's prednisone, and we can target that particular one. Because we have a poly antibiotics remedy that includes 12 to 15 different types of antibiotics. So I would look carefully at that list, and if there is no recollection at all, we would just start with the poly antibiotics.
And I've looked at that list, and I think that includes most of what we've taken or given to people with Lyme disease, except for penicillin. Penicillin is separate. So anyone that's taken penicillin shots probably would need a separate penicillin remedy.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. That's good. Yeah.
So when you are clearing, like say penicillin, it has an energetic marker in your system, and the homeopathic is then working with that energy or that marker and releasing it from the body, right? Is that the mechanism?
Yeah, beautifully said, Gail. That's beautifully said. Yes.
And a very
I'm sorry.
okay. Yeah, you kind of have to wrap your mind around that and actually like believe it too. I mean, there's a lot of belief that the system is working and it's appropriate, and it's like different than what we grow up believing, that this medication will do that. So it's kind of a change in values, I would say, too.
Yeah, and that's a good way of describing it, and that's why I give so much credit to these doctors that told me, go back to your energy medicine, and here they are, fully in that world of allopathic medicine, but they could admit to me that my treatment needed to be elsewhere. And even though they weren't providing it, but they gave me the blessing to do that. And I can't say how appreciative I am of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Kathy Moore has asked if there's a link to providers. Maybe she didn't get the e-blast. Maybe she got referred from a friend of a friend of a friend. And Britt, is it on our Facebook page? The references that Isabel gave us?
On our Facebook page, I couldn't figure out how to attach them together, so they're on one at a time. But yeah, I posted them yesterday to our Facebook group. Yep.
So if anybody didn't get that attachment, you could go there to the Minnesota Lyme Association Facebook page.
Thank you.
The private page. Yep.
Thank
That you
you.
might have to join the group, but by the time you get in there, you'll be able to find the references.
And just to update the practitioner list, what they're doing right now with Ton Jensen's group, they're trying to figure out a way to get a global list. So let's say you want to work with somebody from Bulgaria or Serbia, because we have our webinars translated into many languages. You might be able to do that at some point in the future. We'll have practitioners that are trained in human chemistry from our international community that will be listed on his website, but they haven't figured out how they're going to do that yet. So that will be coming. So you'll have a lot more options.
All right, I think we're nearing the end of the hour. Is there any last questions before we close? I just want to thank everyone for being here. It's really fun to get these new ideas out there. Of course, I always go first. I'm 6 months into it. I'm have gone from working to ride an e-bike 20 miles to being able to ride a road bike 60 miles in a day. I've gone from being able to walk a block to being able to run up a steep hill. So the mitochondrial energy deficiency that happens with chronic Lyme disease does seem to be gradually wearing away. I think there's like more improvement that I'd like to see, but I'm very hopeful. And I want to thank Isabel for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me, all of you. Karen, thank you so much. Thank you all for being here today. If you
And
have,
thank you for everything you shared. It was just powerful. Such great information.
Yes.
thank you. And
Very
if you have
accessible.
more questions, email me. I love to answer questions.
Thank you very much, Isabel.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you.
Bless all of you.
Thanks. Be well.
Bye.
All right, next week we're going to